If you guys need coins for the new Fut birthday promo, make sure you check out MMOXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're very fast, they're very cheap, they're very reliable, and if you use my code Rema, you can get yourself a nice 5% discount. So what's up guys, it's the Custom Tactics Fraud here and welcome back to another video. In today's video guys, we're going to be looking at the 4-2-2 and I'm going to be giving you my updated custom tactics and player instructions for one of the best direct formations in the game. Now just before we get into today's video guys, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up, as that does really help me out with the YouTube search algorithm. Also subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside guys, let's get right into today's video. Okay guys, so starting off with the custom tactics. For the defensive style, I like to use this on balance. I'm pretty sure you guys are aware of this now, and the reason for this is it just gives you the most control over your defense, where you're able to press when you need to press and you're able to drop off and be more conservative when you need to be. So it does just give you the very much needed balance and control, especially against those higher end opponents. If you use pressure tactics, they can cut you apart very easily. Now moving on to the defensive width guys, I just use this on 40. The reason we do this is because it's primarily a narrow shape then when we are defending, but we're also able to get the natural width to cover the wide areas for an attack down the wings too. So we primarily defend in a more narrow style, but we also have the natural coverage of the wide areas to get out to the wings when we need to. Now moving on to the depth guys, I use this on 55. This is a bit lower than I normally use. The reason for this is I was noticing I was getting through balled a lot recently, so I just lowered the depth a bit to avoid that. So what this does is it makes our defensive line sit just a little bit deeper, but not too deep to the point where we're always getting pinned back. We're also able to sometimes win the ball a bit higher up the pitch because the defensive line isn't too far back, but it's just nice and balanced. Now moving on to the build-up play guys, I like to use this on balanced. This is because it is the most controlled and balanced style in the game for build-up play. Basically it's most suited for all the types of FIFA 23 gameplay you might experience, because you guys know by now that, you know, there's like different types of gameplays. There's fast gameplay, slow gameplay, whatever. There's so many different types that you might experience. Balanced is just the most suited for all of them, which is why we do use it. Something like fast build-up is very good when the gameplay is good, but you know, it very rarely is. Now moving on to chance creation guys, I suggest using direct passing. The reason for this is it makes your attackers bunch up against the defensive players, so you're able to do like those really overpowered isolation plays. This isn't really possible with other chance creation styles. You also get the extra pass option when you are in the box, which allows you to guarantee those goals, but again, not everyone likes direct passing, and that's fine. So the next best option in my opinion would be something like forward runs, where you know your team pushes very far into your opponent's half and penalty area. The thing I don't really like about forward runs though is when you lose the ball, you're very prone to those counter attacks. So I think they're both good in their own way, but I prefer direct passing. But feel free to use forward runs if you want to. Now moving on to the attacking width guys, I'm using this on 52 at the moment. Now that's quite a bit wider than I normally use for the narrow formations, but the reason I'm doing this is because the 4-2-2 is actually quite a bit wider than some other formations, even though it is a narrow one. And the reason for this is you almost have like a line of 4 attackers. It almost looks like a 4-2-4, so you can afford to up the width to spread those attackers out a bit more, because what you'll find sometimes is when you have the width too low of this formation, your players are like sat on top of each other and you don't really get a lot out of it. So I'm kind of just using a bit of a higher width, and it's working quite well with this formation. Now moving on to players in box guys, I have this on 6. This is so we can get some players into the box to create chances, but at the same time we don't overcommit the entire team to the point where we get counter attacked. As for corners and free kicks, these are both on 1 because there is a corner kick routine that I use which requires both of these to be on 1. Moving on to the players you want to use guys, in the 2 striker positions I kind of like to go for a balance between the two, where we have like 1 finisher and 1 creator, so we have like a creator finisher dynamic. This is just so we've got a bit more variety in attack and we're able to do a bit more, because if we were to just use like 2 out and out strikers in the voice crack there, if we were to just use 2 out and out strikers in the striking positions, it makes the team very one-dimensional and you kind of just rely on like through balls and things like that. So by having a creator finisher dynamic, dynamic, I can't speak today, I'm sorry, you're able to have more varied attacks and it works a little bit better. But you don't really have to do this if you don't want. It's just something I would suggest. Now, in the cam positions, you're going to want to use like technical players. These are players that are agile, players that can pass, shoot, dribble, basically do a bit of everything in attack. You're not going to want to use like slow trucks because you're going to find it difficult to actually create any chances with them. You need these to be as good as you can get them, really, otherwise you might struggle. Moving on to the left CDM, we use a more defensive midfielder. This is somebody that is going to stay back and really add defensive security. So we're using the flashback Jorginho because he's very good defensively, and you know, one of the best things you can get in this position is a medium-high work rate, so you get the maximum contribution in defense and they're not too bothered about attack. So, you know, just go for a really good defensive player in this position. Now, moving on to the right CDM, we use a more box-to-box style midfielder. The reason we do this is because it helps us with transition from defense to attack, because what you'll find is if you use two defensive CDMs, sometimes the like 4 attackers will feel very disconnected from the rest of the team. So by having a box-to-box style player, you're allowing extra transitions from defense to attack, and you're allowing this player to link up the play from like the defenders to the attackers, and it works very nicely. So go for a nice well-rounded player, and if you can get it, a high work rate is super beneficial. But again, don't worry too much if you can't get it. As for the fullbacks, I kind of like to go for a balance between the two, where I have Roberto Carlos, who's a bit more technically gifted and a bit better on the ball, and then I have Cafu, who's a bit more defensively solid. That's just something I like to do. You guys don't have to copy that if you don't want. And as for the centre-backs and the goalkeeper, these just really need to be as good as you can get them. Moving on to the player instructions, guys, I've kind of changed these a little bit since the last time, but not really, but I'm going to explain them anyway. So in the left striker, where I have my more creative player, we have him on stay central and then mixed attack. We have him on stay central because we don't want him drifting off into the wider areas. We've already got the cam for that, so we need him to stay central so he's always in the correct position. We have him on mixed attack because we don't just want this player running in behind all the time. If we do that, again, makes it very one-dimensional, and it's not something you want out of a creative player. Sometimes you want them to sit a little bit deeper, pick up the ball in different areas and do different things. So sometimes, you know, having this guy on mixed attack means he's going to be able to set up the more clinical striker on the other side. So that's why I like to do that. Now on the right striker, I used to have this on mixed attack too, but I've changed it to get in behind. This is because we always want this player to be in the correct positions to finish off those chances. So putting him on getting behind allows for that the most, which is why I've done that. And then again, we have him on stay central, so he's not bothering about drifting into those wider areas. Moving on to both cams, guys, we have them just on getting to the box for cross. The reason we do this is because when we get to the penalty area, and if they're on balance crossing runs, for example, they're very passive and they don't really get involved. So getting to the box cross, super important, so they do get involved and you're going to be able to create as many chances as possible. It doesn't mean you have to cross the ball to them, it just means they will make those movements. Moving on to the left CDM, the more defensive one, we have him on stay back while attacking and cut passing lanes as well as cover centre. Stay back, very self-explanatory, we don't want him going forward because he's defensive. Cut passing lanes means he's always going to be there to break up the play, and it sometimes allows for very quick counter-attacks. We also have him on cover centre because we don't need him covering the wide areas, as we've already got 2 players on this left-hand side to do that, so we need him to cover those central areas. Moving on to the right CDM, the more box-to-box style player, we have him on default settings and cover centre. We have him on default settings because we don't want to restrict this player too much. He is a box-to-box player, so we want to allow him to do whatever he wants to do, and the only important thing is cover centre, so he is covering those central areas instead of the wide areas, because again, we've already got 2 wide players on this side, so we don't need another one there. Now, moving on to both fullbacks, I have them on stay back while attacking and overlap. Now, the reason I do this is because I've changed this formation so it's already a little bit more naturally wide in attack, so I don't need extra support from fullbacks all the time. The reason I made this change was because I was noticing I was getting like counter-attacked very easily, so I've kind of just decided to put both fullbacks on stay back while attacking and overlap. So they're going to stay back while default, but the overlap run type means if they do go forward forward, they're going to add extra width to the attack. As for the centre backs and the goalkeeper, I just leave them on default settings. I do not touch them. But yeah guys, they are my custom tactics and player instructions for the 4-2-2. If you guys have enjoyed or found this useful, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.